To maintain its empire, the Roman state ran a massive, heavily funded religious apparatus. This system operated like a massive industrial furnace, requiring a constant physical supply of burning raw material to function. These chunks of raw frankincense and myrrh served as mandatory operational consumables. Daily state sacrifices across thousands of Roman temples required a constant physical supply of this material to perform the rituals mandated by the state. This created a condition of inelastic demand. Regardless of the market price, the Roman government had to acquire these specific resins to keep their religious infrastructure operational. Because these materials are destroyed upon use, they cannot be recycled or reused. Every ounce incinerated meant another ounce had to be transported to the Mediterranean to replace it. This mechanical destruction guarantees an infinite market. Roman temples never reached a point of saturation. Their need for fuel was permanent and continuous. Unlike durable goods like silk or iron, which remain in the economy, incense was a non-negotiable overhead cost that simply vanished into smoke. This endless, state-sponsored consumption represented a massive opportunity for wealth extraction. The market was guaranteed, provided a supplier could secure the line. The sole source of these resins was isolated on the southern coast of the Arabian Peninsula, in modern-day Yemen and Oman. A geographical friction zone spanning 1,200 miles separated that supply from the Mediterranean consumer ports. This 1,200-mile corridor is almost entirely devoid of the natural resources required for standard overland transport. The route is defined by an absolute lack of surface water and extreme thermal conditions. These barren wadis and rocky valleys offer no forage for traditional draft animals. At the time, maritime shipping via the Red Sea was unviable due to untamed monsoon winds and aggressive pirate activity along the coast. The entity that could engineer a method to bridge this 1,200-mile void would effectively own the entire Mediterranean market. The Nabataeans themselves produced zero actual resin. Their entire economic model focused on the movement of heavy freight across the Arabian void. Their primary transport mechanism for crossing this distance was the Arabian camel. In a pure logistics context, the Arabian camel functions as a highly specialized, heavy-duty piece of biological hardware. This hardware is defined by specific engineering limits: water retention efficiency, payload capacity in raw tonnage, and daily mileage range. Traditional animals like horses or oxen reach catastrophic failure points here within days due to dehydration. Mastering the deployment of this biological hardware was the technological breakthrough that made the supply chain physically possible. Scaling this operation required moving from the individual animal to the macro-scale trade caravan. Thousands of animals moving in a synchronized line require extreme scheduling and management. In a single crossing, one of these fleets pushed a massive volume of raw industrial resin northward. Simply keeping a biological fleet of this size operational during the journey required a massive daily investment in calories and hydration. Survival while pushing heavy freight through the desert depended on highly protected data regarding route conditions and precise distances between water sources. To service the fleet, the Nabataeans built permanent physical infrastructure directly into the wasteland. These structures served as highly secure, specialized logistics hubs built for freight processing and maintenance. Transitioning to a synchronized, corporate-scale logistics fleet gave the Nabataeans an unbreakable monopoly over the physical supply chain. The overland journey ends at a terminal choke point, the Nabataean capital of Petra. Petra's economic power was a direct consequence of its location. It sat at an unavoidable bottleneck, forcing all northern-bound freight through a single, narrow passage. The Nabataeans maintained their advantage through an encrypted water grid. This hidden hydrological engineering, a network of underground cisterns and catchments, made the route survivable for massive fleets. The locations and access points of these cisterns were strictly classified. Without official Nabataean authorization to access this water grid, competitor caravans simply died of dehydration in the remote desert. By monopolizing the hydrology, the Nabataeans weaponized the geography itself to eliminate all rival supply chains. To reach the Mediterranean, the freight had to pass through Nabataean-controlled borders. At the Petra Tollbooth, the organization began a process of violent financial extraction. This chart shows the markup. The Nabataeans imposed a 25% tariff on the value of every load of resin for the right-of-way. That 25% tariff was converted directly into hard Roman currency. These piles of silver denarii represent a massive macroeconomic drain. Because the Romans could not stop buying incense, they were constantly losing their silver reserves to the east. Rome paid these prices because the demand for their state religion remained totally inelastic. This dynamic allowed the Nabataeans to dominate the region without a massive standing military or warfare. The powerful Nabataean cartel accumulated unimaginable massive wealth purely by taxing the friction of the unforgiving desert geography. The final view of the theater shows a continuous volume of silver flowing out of Rome and bottlenecking permanently at Petra. The Roman Empire conquered the known world with iron. But the Nabataeans quietly drained Rome's silver reserves simply by owning the toll booth on the only road that mattered.